Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac, Jack, and Jim This Week in Sports show. We're live every Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m. on Roku TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter. We're all over the place. So welcome to our show. I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, legendary boxing writer, Hall of Famer Jack Hirsch, and the greatest Dallas Cowboy defensive end of all time, the two-time Super Bowl champion, Jim Jeffcoat. Today on the show, guys, we've got Keith Engel from TGI Sports coming in to talk a little bit about his side of the sports he covers, Yankees, Patriots, and so on. We also got in Robert Butler with his sports commentary as he comes in every Sunday giving his views on the biggest news in sports, followed by the Philly sports guy who's got to be happy as heck with the Eagles. About the Eagles. Well, Eagles trade, he should be happy with that. 76ers and the Phillies starting off 2-0. So it'll be fun talking to him today. Good morning, guys.
The Yankees are 2-0 too.
Yes, well, we will be talking about that with our first guest. So guys, I want to start off with with some sad news. A young man at 24 years old who was struck by, I think it was a dump truck on the highway. On his way, I guess he was on his way to practice. Dwayne Haskins is well known because he was an Ohio State quarterback drafted in the first round by the Redskins, now with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But in the big scheme of things, who cares? Right? What does it matter? Because, life is something precious. It reminds us of our own mortality. And even 24-year-olds, even younger people die every day from a lot of different reasons, a lot of different situations. I didn't know him personally. I don't think anybody in the show knew him personally. But it just goes to show, guys, man, if you got a significant other, kids, friends, let them know you care about them. Let them know how you feel. It might be the last time you get a chance. So I don't know any thoughts you guys got on it. But, it's a sad thing, and it's just sad when things like this happen to any young man or young lady. So I guess, go ahead, Jeff.
Dwayne Haskins had actually turned the corner. For whatever reason, things didn't fully work out, when he was with the Washington Commanders at the time, the Redskins. And he went to the Steelers. He was in a wonderful environment, and he turned the corner, was well liked by his teammates and progressing as a player. And he was all liked. He was valued by other people, and that's an important thing. So he had a really good reputation at the end where he was at Pittsburgh. And a lot of people, are hit hard by that. So I think he's going to be remembered fondly.
And I agree with you, Jack. But, the things that happened in Washington would have affected a lot of people negative, but he took it and he worked to be positive. Because if you hear Mike Tomlin talking about him, Ben Roethlisberger, and how positive they spoke of him, that shows you what kind of person he was. He didn't let the bad times in his life affect him. I know he was young, but he turned it into a positive, because if you remember last year, we were talking about him possibly being the starter at Pittsburgh last year with Ben on his last leg. And everybody said, nah, but he had a great preseason. He was down there working with his competition, Mitchell Trubisky. So that tells you a little bit about his personality and how people appreciated him. And that's really sad. But we saw it happen with Jerome Brown. We saw it happen with Sean Taylor for things that they couldn't obviously have imagined would happen. But it's always unfortunate when you lose a young life.
Yeah, and like I say, because of his popularity, we talk about him. It's in the news, but this stuff happens every day.
Yes.
So
just another thing too. Rayfield Wright, even though the circumstances of his death when it's tragic, he was age 76, so he got to live, quite a number of years. But a former offensive lineman of the Dallas Cowboys before Jim Jeffcoat's time, but we were talking about him before the show. and you knew him very well, Jim.
Yes.
Can you say something about him?
Yeah, it was really unfortunate because if you've ever met Rayfield, what kind of gentleman he was and what personality, and he did a lot working in the community. He lived just west of Dallas and near Fort Worth. And he really worked to help the community. He had things helping the police department where he was living at and things like that. And it's really unfortunate when you lose anyone. He was 76 years. He was the most decorated Dallas Cowboy lineman ever, offensive lineman, which people don't realize because obviously he was most of his career was in the 60s and the 70s. But he was from Fort Valley State. He came in as a tight end, and they made him an offensive lineman. But he was just like I said, one of the most decorated linemen, other than Larry Allen in Cowboy lore. He was one of the best ever.
All right. Well, so condolences to, of course, the families, both of the families of the people that passed away today. Guys, I want to get into, and this has been discussed a lot on the Mac and Jack Sports Show, how much power should a player have in a team sport? And we've heard, all the different things coming out of different sports camps, how a quarterback wants to decide on what free agents come, or he wants to be involved in calling the plays, or even in the draft. And I always thought it was a bad idea. That's not what they get paid for. They're there to learn the new scheme, to help lead that scheme, to get to the players, and no matter what position you're at. I mean, I don't even care if you're a linebacker on defense. Your job is to play football. And I don't mean that in a derogatory term at all. I mean, it's very hard to play the game of football and be very good at it. So they have GMs, they have scouting departments, they have front office personnel, directors of player personnel. These jobs are filled normally by experts in those fields. That's why they're not on the field playing football, because that's what they're good at. And if you don't have a good front office, then normally the team suffers, right? Normally your team isn't as good as teams that have good front offices, and vice versa. You can have a great front office, but your players aren't as good or coach as well as others. So I think there's separate lanes you got to be in as an organization, especially in a football organization that has like 45 different parts going at once. And they try to keep everything under control. I don't care how great a player you are. I don't care what kind of influence you have. I don't care about any of that stuff. If you can help, great help. But don't be saying you need to be called and consulted when they draft players. I think that's ridiculous. A great example of that is LeBron James. Now, LeBron James has been gotten coaches fired, has gotten players moved out of teams, has gotten other players in teams like he did this year with Westbrook. And I think also with Carmelo Anthony, if I'm not mistaken. And there's opportunities out there for other players to come, younger players, more dynamic players, players that could really help the team out. And the story goes that Magic Johnson was contacted by Darazan and his agent. They both wanted him to come to play for the Lakers. So Magic Johnson calls the GM. He still has strong connections with the Lakers and tells the GM. Meanwhile, LeBron is in talks with Westbrook. And they decide they want Westbrook for whatever reason. I mean, I know he's been a great player for a long time. And the GM signs off on it. And now the Lakers aren't playing as well. In fact, they're a dumpster fire this year, if you want to be honest. So LeBron will not be affected by this move. He's not going to be fired. He's not going to be let go. He's not going to be traded unless he wants to be traded. But people are going to suffer an organization from this. The coach was probably going to be fired after this year. He had nothing to do with that. The GM, I'm not sure if the GM has strong connections to the owner or if he is the owner. I didn't take my time to look that up. But if he isn't, if he's a separate entity, he's probably going to get fired. So here you have a player making decisions for a team, and I don't know whether it's because he doesn't want a young superstar on his team, potential superstar, or because he just has ties to these older players. And this is why I say that players should do their jobs, do it well, and let everybody else do their job. Real quick thoughts because we got Keith hanging backstage. What do you think, Jack?
Oh, Jim or Jack?
Take your pick.
I'll do it real quick. And I'll make this quick, but this is not the first time this happened. Magic Johnson made some choices, and that's what got Paul Westphal fired. Michael Jordan did it too, but it's not them. Players, a lot of times, just like you said, Carmelo Anthony, but he knew his role.
Jim, Michael Jordan didn't get anyone fired. Jordan always stepped back with that, even though he.
No, that's how Phil Jackson got in Chicago, if you remember.
But he liked Doug Collins, Michael Jordan. He hired him later for the Washington Wizards when he was.
Yeah, but Doug Collins got fired because Michael Jordan didn't like the way that offense.
I heard that too.
So you have to understand that. Some players are like that. They want to play with their buddies. They want to play with their friends. And I don't agree with that. And what Mac is saying is right. You got a scouting department. You take the best available athlete, and that'll help you grow. But then you look on the other side, Russell Wilson. They took everything away from Russell Wilson in Seattle. And there's always, the pluses and minuses. Do players need that much power? Not really. In basketball, maybe, but in football, it's because you got so many moving pieces.
Well, so you know from personal experience.
Real quick.
Troy Aikman didn't like Barry Switzer, but he didn't want to get him fired. Okay, he didn't want to overstep his bounds. But leadership comes from within the locker room. You have a few leaders. I think if they're the right guys, that's the key. The right guys, you defer to them, and they'll keep control of the locker room. So I think you should consult them if you have the right guys. Absolutely.
All right, folks. So that's the opinions real quick. Let's bring up Keith Anger from DTI Sports. I get to have a little fun with him today. We'll talk a little bit about the Yankees, a little bit about the Patriots moves. So let's bring him up. Good morning, Keith.
Good morning,
Good
gentlemen.
morning, Keith.
How you doing? So, Keith, we talked about this quite a few times.
Yankees are 2-0. I know.
The Yankees are 2-0. They're playing a good team called the Red Sox. But I want to get to a couple other points with you.
Yeah.
There was a guy who you love and want to stay with the Yankees. In fact, he said he wanted to be the Yankee player forever. He wanted to be a Yankee forever. And he's just waiting on a contract offer, but before the deadline. So the deadline just coming up. The Yankees offer him $230 million for 7 years. And with some opts in that contract also. There was a second option in that contract. Aaron Judge basically said, nah. So what do they do with Aaron Judge now, Keith?
Well, if he sticks to his word, and as I think would be the right thing to do, don't negotiate during the season because it becomes a distraction. But I don't think it precludes him from staying. It's going to cost the Yankees a lot more to keep him if he stays healthy and has a big year, which I expect him to do, and possibly be in the running for the MVP of the American League. It'll cost the Yankees a lot more money. The Yankees are now trying to win the PR story here by releasing those numbers in the first.
They're being honest, Keith. They're being honest.
I understand that.
Listen, if I was a GM, as soon as he turned it down, I'm calling every team that has a great catcher and a good pitcher, and I am getting ready to trade him. He would be gone today. He would be out of a Yankee uniform today. He would be on any other team, and I would fill.
Jim, you're lucky Mac wasn't your coach.
I would fill the holes we have, and I would get everything I could for Aaron Judge, or I would trade him to the Kansas City Royals. He lied. He's a phony. He's a fake. He's a phony. He's a fake.
Tell us how you really feel, Mac.
How can you trust this, Jim? How can you trust a guy that came out and said he wants to be a Yankee for life? He's supposedly the face of the Yankees. They offer him over $30 million a year to play for the Yankees for the next 7 years, and he goes, no. How can you trust him now?
Mac, it's not about what he did in the past.
I didn't ask you right now, Jim. I didn't ask you, Jack. Jim, what would you think about it?
First of all, the thing I'd have to question is, and Keith would know this, how many times has Aaron Judge played a whole season in the last?
He has played most of the season 3 times.
3 times. And
2 out of
what
4
year
years.
is this for?
That's got nothing to do with it.
But
It's
wait.
going
I'm
forward.
getting to a point. Is you're taking a risk, and you always take a risk when you sign a player to a huge contract. And you can't, I think we talked about this before. I mean, you got to be able to invest and utilize the money, whatever you get, 30 million, 20 million, properly. But Judge is just trying to get as much as he can right now. I'm not mad at him for that. I'm a huge Yankees fan, but I also understand that from both sides, they're negotiating. This is just negotiation ploys. We see it all the time in every sport, in every situation. They're just negotiating. Don't get upset at the player or the management.
No,
They're
the
just trying to get the
negotiations
best
are over, Jim. Judge set a deadline and no more negotiations.
There you
till
go.
it's a free agent. It's over.
Right.
That's
According
right.
to Judge.
And both
That's
sides
right.
take a risk, because Jim said Aaron Judge is putting something on the line here too, because he
Yes.
could get hurt and
Yeah.
won't get what he was offered. So
And that's
Exactly.
why I would trade him right now before he gets hurt. Why would
Well,
you
first
take
of
that
all,
chance?
let me go
Why
back.
would you?
Let me address that point. If you
Right.
trade Aaron Judge right now,
Right.
and they're not going to get fair value for him right
No.
now.
Oh, that's nonsense. That's
That is
nonsense, Keith.
Nobody's going to give you fair value because first of all, they won't have him under contract. And so you can't tell me the Yankees will be a better team by trading Aaron Judge today.
I agree.
I'll tell you right
100%.
now. I will tell you right now. I would get a great catcher for him, and I would get a great pitcher
Great
for him.
catcher.
I'd fill.
But who's going to deal with you?
Yeah.
Who's gonna make
Who's
that
going to deal? I'm going to tell you right now who would deal with us, Jim. The A's would deal us. The Mets would deal with us.
They got a great
The Padres might deal with us. I mean, there are certain teams out there that would definitely deal with us that want to go to the World Series. There are definitely teams out there would want to do that. I'll throw in one of my great my great prospects too. I'm going to make a boatload of picks and let them worry about the signing. I mean, it's going to be a trade. And if I can't do that, I'm going to send him to the worst team in the league. That's what I'm going to do.
One of
You
their
know, you're not dealing in reality, Mac.
No.
Keith and Jim are dealing in reality here. Mac, you're dealing in emotion
Yes.
right now. You want to spy him, you'll send him to the worst team in the league. He'll play for the worst team in the league.
Yeah, have a
And then
good
become
time.
a free agent in the offseason. No big
Have
deal.
a great, listen, Jack. Have a great time. I'm tired of liars. I'm tired of false people who say one thing and then turn around and do something else. He had a shot to be a Yankee for life. I'm glad you're muted because I don't want to hear you right now. They had a shot at being a Yankee for life. He had his opportunity being one of the highest paid players in Major League Baseball, and he lied. He doesn't want that. He wants, and listen, God bless him. Go get as much money as you want. I don't care, Keith. Just not as a Yankee. Go get as much money as you want now.
I don't think you can say he lied. First of all, what do we know about the actual contract negotiations that went on here? We know that he was offered 7 years for $213 million. End of story.
230.
I'm sorry, $231 million. Right. It was
That's 8 years.
right. So I thought it was 213. Maybe I'm wrong. It was over 30 million. But regardless, we don't know what the rest of the negotiations were. What else is in that contract that he said no to? We don't know that. Jim kind of thing.
Please, what did they say to him? You're not going to get it if you play bad? Come on. Listen, Keith, I mean, I love you. I love you, Keith. I love you. And I love your loyalty.
You were ready for an argument this morning, Mac.
I love it. Okay, so let's push it to the next one. We know your feelings on Judge.
It's like Groundhog Day.
We know your feelings on Judge now, Keith. Judge can do anything he wants, and we'll just cater to his needs.
I never said
he
that.
He needs to feed his family, Keith. Anyway, you don't give me a hard time.
That was a stupid thing to say.
And
All
so
right.
was turning down the contract a stupid thing. Garrett Cole, our ace pitcher, who went 12-10. We paid $3.6 million per loss for his great season he had last year, and he jumps out to a great first game, didn't he?
First game. How long was spring training?
I got to gloat while I can, Keith.
You can't.
Yankees won the game, Max. What are you complaining
We're not
about?
talking. I know that, and you picked them to finish under 500, so you have nothing to say.
Max, then the season just started. I still holding to my pick. Last year, the Red
with it.
Sox lost
Stay
their
with it.
first 3 of the year, and they made the playoffs.
Stay
They lost
with
to
your
the
pick.
Orioles.
Stay with your great pick, Jack.
But by the way, let's remember something. He gave out 3 runs in the first inning and pitched pretty well after that. So,
oh well, that's really important, Keith, because when you're down 3-0, there's a real good chance that you're going to win that game. It's good the Yankees with their new third baseman was able to come back. So
I'll take we'll have this conversation at the end of the year. Who had a better year?
I know, Keith. I got to gloat now. I mean, I'm out, man. You know,
it's all fair. It's all fair.
At the end of the year, it's your turn, maybe. So anyway, so I love to have fun with you, Keith. Let's talk about the Patriots. Pretty good move at wide receiver, I think. Right, grabbing Miami's wide receiver.
I like it a lot. I mean, I'm a little shocked that the Dolphins traded him within the division and they got to see him twice a year. That's what shocks me.
Devontae Parker.
Yeah, but on that note, this is a new offense, and he never even got to camp yet, so he doesn't know what they're going to run.
No, that's a fair point. But I mean, if he succeeds, they've got to face him twice a year. So it's not about the knowing the schemes or anything. But I think he's a great fit for the Patriots. He's something they don't have. A guy who can get down the field and go up and, take contested balls away from defensive backs. The Patriots don't have anybody that can really do that. They've been looking for that guy for years now, since Randy Moss left.
Yeah.
Can Brian Hoyer get him the ball? That's the question.
Yes, he can. On the sideline when they're warming up before the game, he can.
Piling on.
Brian
Hoyer.
Am I wearing a kick me sign this morning or what?
Oh my God! I woke up this morning, saw the Yankees score, and I just smiled. I said, "I can't."
Listen, I'm happy. I told you that listen. You know how I feel about Judge. You know how I feel about Cole. I predicted the Yankees not to make the playoffs based on a lot of other factors, not those two. Right. And I'm rooting for them to win. I'm happy they won these games.
Yes, you are. You are very happy about that. So. With the Patriots, I asked Jack this, and there's, every great coach seems to run out of steam at some point in your career. Shula, Landry, all the way back to Paul Brown. It happens. Either the other teams catch up to him, the game gets a little away from him a little bit, and Is Belichick? Do you think Belichick? Do you see signs, Keith? You follow Patriots closer than I do, and I do follow them pretty close because they're from up here. You see that there's signs that maybe Belichick is starting to lose control of this. I mean, look, you got Buffalo, you got Miami. We don't know. Miami's a new system. We don't know. The Jets and in the AFC, there's a lot of powerhouses out there right now. It looks that way anyway. So, is time catching Bill Belichick finally?
Time catches everybody finally, eventually. And maybe it's so, but, to me, it's more the coaching staff and the caliber of coaches are not what they've been in the past. I don't mean to denigrate these guys, but the guys he had in the past were really top caliber guys and really experienced guys. And I think that's hurt him. And maybe his little bit of nepotism with his sons has hurt him a little bit. And that decision making is maybe not good. But it's never a good sign when your owner, especially after you've won 6 Super Bowls for him, starts calling you out in public and saying,
that's what
put him on notice without actually saying it. And that's the worst sign. That his time may be getting closer to an end than we think.
Yeah, I agree with you, Keith, 100%.
Yeah,
the owner's calling him out, and the owner's writing the paychecks.
Yeah,
so he's going to make that decision.
Did Robert Kraft really call him out? Or Robert Kraft said he's really disappointed they haven't won a playoff game in a few years. That's all he said. He didn't put down Belichick. I mean, what's he supposed to say? He's disappointed. We would have said the same thing.
He went into more detail about the drafts the last few years and some other things. I mean, he never mentioned Belichick necessarily by name, but who's responsible for all of that? It's Bill Belichick. So it's very obvious to me that he's not happy, which he has a right not to be. He's the owner of the team. And I think he's basically put Belichick on notice here.
Yeah, so, I do. This is the interesting thing about the Patriots. They're not naming any offense coordinator. I know they have their staff, and they're not naming a defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. And they put Matt Patricia on offense. as opposed to defense.
Yeah, that's
But one thing, was the draft that bad? They got Mac Jones, they got Barrymore from Alabama.
I
Was
think
the
he was
draft really
referring.
that bad?
I would think he was referring to the drafts before that led to them not being able to continue their success when Brady left. I think that's what he was referring to. Now, as far as Jim's point, as far as naming coordinators, this is something they've done at different times through the years because they don't want to pay the money. You get more money when you get the title, right?
Yes.
So they've had many years they didn't have an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator. I don't know that they had one last year. Brian Flores, before he went to Miami, was the de facto defensive coordinator who didn't have the title.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there was one last year. Steve Belichick was calling a lot of the plays, and Belichick did more oversight of his own. But I don't think they had a guy whose name I was surprised. I thought Patricia would be back on the field on the defensive side of football, not the offensive side. That's surprising.
Keith, it surprises me because Belichick came out and said, "Well, we spent all this money and got all these free agents so we could make that run at the Super Bowl." And the Patriots don't spend a lot of money. They don't. They don't do this. So what is he saving the money for, or who is he paying that puts them over the salary cap? Because honestly, I can go all the way back with the Patriots since Belichick's been the coach there. And I really don't remember the big signings he's talking about. Brady, maybe when he re-upped it, but even when they got the former great wide receivers and stuff, those were on the cheap. Those were big salaries. So I don't know what he was talking about, where that money's going to. And it seems like he Belichick was a master of bringing people in and using them on the field to his advantage, their strengths.
Yeah.
I don't remember him signing a huge free agent or 2 free agents. I don't remember that.
No, through most of the dynasty, 2 guys got paid. The quarterback, who was not even paid as high as a lot of the quarterbacks in the league, his caliber, and the head coach. Those are the 2 guys that got paid. Now, a few guys got paid. Stephen Gilmore had a nice contract. Ty Lawson before he left, and some other guys got some decent contracts, but probably not full market value. And that's been the Patriots' way, is not to overpay and to get rid of guys sooner than later. Again, that's one of the remarkable things about how they've kept this thing going, is to be able to bring guys in and keep guys with less money.
Tremendous job. He did mixing and matching and bringing people in. I just didn't understand him saying we spent all this money on free. I never saw him spend a lot of money on free agents. I don't know what he's talking about. And until last year, they went hog wild in the free agent market. That's really the first time that's ever happened in the history. Right, exactly. And he was talking about years prior. I don't know what he was talking about.
Yeah.
Anyway,
a little bit.
Anyway, folks,
you got to remember he's 80-some years old. He's married to a 25-year-old. So.
Hey, listen, I'd be busy and spend a lot of money too, I guess. But Keith Engel, TGI Sports, great show, has great guests, great co-hosts. Check him out. He's on Roku. He's on YouTube. He's on Facebook. Northeast Streaming Sports. He got his own site there. Check all his sites out. Follow him. Watch him. He does a great job. Keith, thanks for coming in as you always do, and thanks for letting me rash you some more.
Awesome. I love the harassment. Don't worry about it. It's fun.
Thank you, Keith. I heard Max on his rant. So
thanks,
guys.
Right,
so there you go, folks. Keith Engel from TGI Sports, very knowledgeable in sports, on all sports. And me and him go way back as far as being together. So I get the privilege of bugging him every now and then. Up next, we got another guy. We got another guest, and me and Robert go way back. I think we might have been way back before the Mac and Jack Sports Show. I think I had him guest on another show before that, if I remember correctly. Maybe not. My mind's getting, when you turn 26, life gets hard, guys. But anyway, Rob, always love having him in his commentary. He's kind of a Tennessee Titan fan, but he's all over sports. He has a sports watch van. He drives around picking up stories, does great from the studio. So let's bring in one of the best in the business, Robert Butler from SportScope. Let me grab his banner here real quick. And there you are, Robert. Let's bring Robert in the studio.
Hey,
good morning, Robert.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning, Robert.
Jack, Jim.
So Robert, you're backstage. You hear me razzing Keith a little bit about the Yankees. And before you got in, I gave him hell about Aaron Judge in that contract because he loves Aaron Judge, and Aaron Judge is the face of the Yankees, and he wants to be a lifelong Yankee, he has said. Then the Yankees give him the big contract offer that he said he wanted for 7 years, $230 million, and there even was options to opt
8
out.
years. 8 years, Mac.
Well, I don't know about that. I think it was considered 7 because this year.
213 for 7 with the arbitration sum.
That's what I'm saying. So that's why I think it was 7.
8.
Well, he's already signed this year, Jack. He's playing. So I don't count that year. So, I mean, they're offering him a contract extension for the 7 years, in my opinion. So
For 213 for 7. 213 and a half.
All right, there you go. Thank you, Jack. So
He's got a family, Mac. He's got to feed his family. He's
I
gotta-
agree.
Matt must have had a really good dose of coffee this morning.
Oh,
He was
my
on it.
Robert,
Yeah.
what do you do now? If you're the GM of the Yankees, what would you do?
Well, I mean, now this is baseball. There's no salary cap. I understand that. But, I've always thought about this. They've got Giancarlo Stanton, who's practically the same guy from a batting perspective. Average is pretty close. Stanton had 2 home runs less than Judge did last year. He's about 2 years older at 32. Judge will be 30 this year. They were 23rd in batting average last year. I look who's in the top 5: Atlanta, Houston, the 2 teams in the World Series. I looked that up, and they're like 23rd in fielding. I know Judge is a decent fielder. 7 years, yeah, that's what I read, guys. He's making 17 this year. It's over 30 for the next 7 years. He'll be 37 years old. That's a lot of money. That's pretty healthy. I would actually offer him possibly more money for shorter years, just so you're not dealing with those back end 2 years. Maybe knock him up to 35, 37 to keep him around 3 to 5 years, preferably 5. I'm sure that would be fair, something like that. But if not, I would probably trade him for someone with a better average there. Get a little defense. Their fielding took a hit last year. There were 26 fielding last year as well. So you got to look at his injury history. They got till July. What is it? July 31st, usually the trade deadline. That's something food for thought.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I like Aaron Judge. It sounds like I don't. I do like Aaron Judge. I think he's a great, in my opinion, a great right fielder, Robbie. I think he's one of the best in the league when he's healthy. Great power, good hitter. I think he deserves to be amongst the highest paid. But when somebody comes out and tells the fans and tells the organization he wants to be a Yankee for life, and they offer him a total of 8 years, counting this year, as Jack said, right? That's taking him, past his prime easily. And he has a shot to do what he said he wanted to do. And now he says no. So to me, how do you trust a man like that who said he would do this? He's going to do this if you make an offer to him. And you make the offer, and then he says, no, I'll wait till free agency. I think what you're doing there is you're letting him lay down the law to you. And listen, I mean, he has a right to do it if he wants. But as the Yankees, I have a right to see what kind of people I can get for him. And we
don't know what's going on in the background. We don't know what's going on in negotiations. You can say what you want.
Jim, I understand that to a point, but the basis is there. The basic things are there. And whatever's going on, what are they going to say to him? You can't play right field. You got to DH every 3 batters. I mean, what would stop him? I
don't know, but we don't know the whole ramifications of this contract because we're not reading the fine print. I
know he's making $30 million a year if he signs it, though.
Yeah,
I know that.
It'd be $30 million.
So I mean, listen. I hope Aaron Judge gets as much money as he can. I really do. I'm nothing against Aaron Judge. I just don't like when one player says one thing in the media and it comes out and just lies. And if there is things, as you're saying, Jim, that precluded him from signing the contract, well, then let us know.
Yeah.
Come on, say
Mac, every player says that about his team. He wants to be there the rest of his career. Every player says that during a negotiation.
Not
Russell
every
Wilson said it.
As a Bronco, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So, there you go. So anyway, that's my thought too, Robert. I would have been already on the phone trying to do something because I don't want. In fact, I don't want him faking an injury so that he doesn't play and get hurt for the rest of the year, so that he's higher value when he becomes a free agent. There's so many things that could happen here, but we'll see anyway. Let's talk a little bit, Robert, about the NFL. Right, we have the draft coming up.
Yeah.
And they always make a big deal out of the quarterbacks, even if the quarterback class isn't that good, really. This year, they're making a big deal out of 3 or 4 of them that could possibly be very good quarterbacks. Who do you think goes first into what team, Robert?
Oh, okay. Well, I got the Titans one that you sent me, but as far as first to what team, it sounds like Malik Willis is now the favorite. You know, he was the favorite coming into last year. Didn't have that great a season as we expected, but now since he's done his workouts, it looks like the most mock drafts I look at, he's going. One mock draft had Detroit taking him at number 2. So they're going to have an issue with Jared Goff and his contract for at least one more year. So it looks like a guy like Malik Willis. Pickett is up and down. I mean, some people still like I like the film on him, but there's a big issue about his hand size. I mean, it's just, and remember, guys, Joe Burrow's hand size was considered small. He's in the Super Bowl last year. So some of this stuff is a little bit over the top, but I think those two probably go. I know they're going to go in the first round. Then you got teams like Tennessee. We would like to pick up a quarterback because you kind of see where they're at with a guy like Ryan Tannehill. 2 mock drafts I looked at have them taking Sam Howell out of North Carolina and one Matt Corral. Now, teams like Pittsburgh, I've read that maybe Corral goes to Pittsburgh if Pickett and Willis are off the board. That guy, he might fall in that first round, Matt Corral from Ole Miss, along with Malik Willis and Kenny Pickett.
Yeah. Hey, quick question, Robert.
Yeah.
Why do you think Willis left Auburn?
I don't know. I just read that this week. I didn't know he even played for Auburn. He didn't play
Yes.
that many snaps.
Mm-hmm. I was just curious. Was there an issue with coaching, or was
It may have been a coaching
playing?
change there.
Yeah.
I know they're always changing coordinators. They just
Yeah.
recently changed head coaches last year.
That's right. I was just curious about that.
Yeah.
You mentioned, Rob, with the Lions. I don't think they're drafting a quarterback. Dan Campbell just said you don't need a great quarterback to win in this
He
league.
did.
I think Coach Rule at number 6 with Carolina, they're going to reach and they'll probably take Pickett. And that would be a mistake. That would be reaching and forcing the issue according to need. Because his job, he feels, is on the line. There's a feeling of desperation, and he doesn't want to trust Sam Darnold. So we'll see what plays out.
You know, Robert, I agree with you. Now, Detroit is going to go after that quarterback because he did say they don't need a great quarterback.
Well, that may be a smoke. Yeah, you're right. It may be a smoke screen. Yeah.
They do that all the time.
He doesn't need a smoke screen. He's going number 2 overall.
Exactly.
Jacksonville isn't taking a quarterback.
I
He doesn't
wouldn't.
need the smoke screen.
I disagree with that. I think that Detroit they're probably going to try to trade that position if somebody needs to go up and get them. But I don't think Detroit's going to take
It was in one of
You
the.
got to
mocks. I
remember,
personally
Jared
would do
Goff
it.
has been in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
This is my
And
prediction.
he's not that big a hit, really.
This is my prediction. Not only do the Lions pick up that first round quarterback, they trade Goff to the Titans for their first round draft pick. How's that?
Hey, that's food for thought. I mean, we'll see what happens.
But
He's not
here,
as
Robert.
athletic as Tannehill.
Robert, just like what Dan Campbell said happened in Miami with the guy smelling of alcohol at practice,
Uh-huh.
I'm kind of wondering if Mac has something in that coffee he drinks in the morning.
Yeah, it's Irish
Bailey's.
So
coffee.
when Titans go about number 30, they go late in the first round. Why would the Lions trade their starter
Exactly.
to go late
It
in the
doesn't make
first
it doesn't
round?
make sense.
No,
Because they want to
Mac
trade.
is all,
Because listen to my logic. Because
the Aaron Judge thing has Mac's mind all messed up today.
they want to trade. They want to trade right now, Goff. I know they do. So that's why they're gonna do that. They're gonna trade Goff, saying we don't need that. And then when they do trade Goff, not only will they have their first round pick, but they'll have another team's at least second round pick. And that's my thinking. It might be backwards, but that's what I think right now. So we'll see.
They can always trade him to Cleveland for Baker Mayfield.
Well, yeah, that I do in a heartbeat. Yeah.
Wait, you go on to something. Goff for Tannenhill even up.
Awesome, right?
Man, that I'll have to sleep on that one a few days. That's just, you know,
I can see
y'all
Robert.
hit me with them hot takes there.
Wow.
I can see Robert as Van heading to Detroit right now. It'd be great.
Man, I had to get gassed up early for that one. And
Wow.
Yes, exactly.
man,
Let's talk a little bit. You do a lot of fantasy football.
yeah.
First, Robert, explain to us when the fantasy football leagues start. I don't think they start till after the draft. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong.
Oh yeah, that's way after. Yeah, the idea is to start as late as possible because you don't want your player drafted getting hurt in a preseason game. You don't want to get them hurt in training camp. And a lot of people do it because they're simply fiending for football. You just want to get something going, and it's just not a good idea. We usually, and I don't do it no more because I play so much daily fantasy, and I just have too much on my plate. But normally you want to do it that Sunday after Labor Day or the Monday. A lot of guys they've got Monday off, and it's a big party, and then it's a big draft, and you draw cards and stuff like that. It's just a lot of fun, you know. But that's how that goes down. But if you got any questions about the quarterbacks and all that,
well, what I wanted to ask you, I mean, I imagine I would figure, Rodgers, Wilson, blah, blah, the top quarterbacks are drafted right away and receivers, and then kind of whittles down to the running backs eventually. But is there a fantasy NFL draft that people take part in? I don't mean a mock draft. I mean, you're the GM of the team and you try to predict who's taking who, and there's some kind of award for that or something. Is there something like that out there too?
Oh, with the actual draft. Okay.
Yeah.
That is called on as of late. I've never participated in anything like that. I'm going to work on one myself, just kind of come up with a mock draft for the 32 and maybe break it down a little bit each show, something like that. But yeah, people do that. That's tough. That's tough. But there are some football junkies out there that would take place in something like that.
So let's take a quick look at the NBA. The Nets, of course, they're playing, and for the Nets to do what people say, I think the odds in Vegas, I don't know if they've changed or not. They were the favorites to win the championship since they got the three big three, they call them. And still after they left, Harden left. They're still a favorite to win the NBA championship. And recently, as about a couple of weeks ago, they're still a favorite to win the NBA championship. Can the Nets make history, Robert?
I don't think so at the 7th seed. I was reading today that it's really unlikely they're going to get Ben Simmons back. And they had Ben Simmons back, and he had played for a couple of weeks, and you thought that he was going to be even 80%. They don't even need this guy to score. He just needs to be there for defense, purposes. But I think they'll probably beat Cleveland. Looks like they're going to play Cleveland in the play-in game this coming up week. I think that they may make some noise, but I just, I look at the way they match up with Milwaukee. They lost to Milwaukee the other day. I just don't think in a 7-game series they're going to be able to beat a team like a Milwaukee. Not sure even in a series they can beat a Miami the way they've been playing lately, or Philadelphia for that matter.
Yeah. I mean, that would be.
Don't forget Boston.
And Boston has really come about flying under the radar. A good friend of mine's a Boston fan. He's reminding me not to not forget about Boston now.
Yeah, I mean, what is it? You see, what I don't understand is you've got. Well, I do understand, but I don't know for the playoffs if this is going to work. There are some teams out there very thin on the bench. Boston's one of them. The 76ers are one of them. Milwaukee's got a very good bench. The Nets bench isn't bad. Miami's bench isn't bad either. This is going to come into play, I think, Robert, during a long series. I mean, the players can't play. Well, they can't anymore play the whole game. So if you were to pick a team to win it all, don't you think you would go with one with a strong bench?
You know, I've seen these coaches do 6 and 7 man rotations and get there and win it. It's not as strong in the playoffs as one would think. You would think conditionally, you got to have a strong bench. You got to have a strong bench. But I've seen it where you're only 6 and 7 deep, and your role players are just doing so well that you end up getting there. So I don't know about the bench thing. It's better for positioning to get you to a better seed, but it's not that huge in the playoffs. Believe it or not.
Go ahead.
No, the Nets have weapons off the bench that haven't been a big factor this year. I mean, LaMarcus Aldridge is outstanding as he is in San Antonio. Blake Griffin is certainly useful, if he has it all together. So they really do have guys off the bench.
I was going to say that the scariest team right now in the NBA, and think about this, is the Memphis Grizzlies. And the reason everybody's, they're too young to win. But you got to remember, they're winning without Ja Morant, who might be one of the most exciting players in the NBA. And these are all basically just parts other than Ja, but they play well together. They play well together, and they do have some depth.
Yeah, they've shot the ball. They've got a guy that broke the 3-point record, Dane something. I can't remember his last name. We talked about him last week. And they got Ja Morant back. He made a huge block the other day.
Yep.
That was a highlight reel. And, other than Phoenix, in the West, it doesn't feel like there's no dominant team there. I mean, Phoenix, I think they'll probably do it this year. Booker seems to take that next step. They've got that year under their belt. As far as going deep in the playoffs, they're not feared. They know what they're looking at. They almost won the whole thing last year. It looks like that they're probably going to be that team. But, hey, who knows? Who knows? Injuries happen in the playoffs a lot, guys.
No question.
No doubt. No doubt. One last thing for you.
Yeah.
The 76ers, looks like they're matched up against the Raptors in Toronto. They split even 2-2 during the regular season. They seem to give the 76ers fits when they play them. And they're going to have to go to Toronto maybe. What do you think? I mean, there's some 76er players supposedly that may not be vaccinated.
Yeah, when you got a game that can come down to the last few possessions and then you have the vaccination issue up in Toronto, that could be an issue there. Now, I think Philadelphia's got a better record, right? So they would have home court advantage. This could be a 7-game series. And, it's a lot of half-court basketball, guys, in this playoff setting. So who can get their shot by themselves? Well, you've got Joel Embiid playing great, probably the best he's played of his career. You got a guy like James Harden off the dribble. I think that they'll be able to get over the top. But that's interesting. That could go 7 games just because of the vaccination issue.
And if the Raptors can steal one in Philly,
spill one in Philly, Pags would be upset. I'm sure.
That would be something. And then what would the 76? I'll have Pags on to talk about that. 76er fans would go berserk. They would go berserk if they lost to the Raptors. I'll tell you that right now. Robert, thank you for coming in as you always do. He'll be in next Sunday also. I don't think he'll be reporting from his Sports Chaser van. He gets in the studio when he talks to us. We got a big draft show coming up the 28th, people. Robert will be part of that show, Keith, and me and Jack. And we did it last year. We had a lot of fun. And 7:30 to the end of the first round. So it'll be a long night. So be sure to stay tuned for that too. Robert, thank you for joining us as you always do. Have a great Sunday, Robert.
Take care.
Okay,
Robert.
Guys. Have a good show.
Thank you,
Yes,
Robert.
sir.
All right.
So there you go, folks. Robert Butler from Sports Scope. You can find him everywhere on social media. He's all over the place. Does a great job too. So, folks, we're going to take our first official timeout, a little break here as we gather our thoughts. And I stopped thinking about Aaron Judge for about 5 minutes. And we'll be back right after these messages, folks. Please stick with us.
It certainly is a big bun. It's a very big, fluffy bun. It's a very big, fluffy bun. Where's the beef?
Some hamburger places give you a lot less beef on a lot of bun.
Where's the beef?
At Wendy's, we serve a hamburger we modestly call a single. And Wendy's single has more beef than the Whopper or Big Mac. At Wendy's, you get more beef and less bun.
Hey, where's the beef? I don't think there's anybody back there.
You want something better. You're Wendy's kind of people.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
Cheetos presents Chester Cheetah.
I'm Chester Cheetah. I'm just a cool dude in a loose mood. Until I see those Cheetos, then my cool turns to drool. My style and ease surrender to my urge for the snack that goes crunch. It's not easy being cheesy.
Cheetos cheese-flavored snack. Cheese that goes crunch.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
When the job is done, this guy'll be ready to get her something mighty good to eat.
How do you handle a hungry man? The manhandlers.
One of the manhandlers is Campbell's vegetable beef. Gets a man-sized supper off to a good hot start. Good.
The manhandlers.
If you're talking, they will hear you every single time.
Now we're getting killed. Yeah, well, Kyle's not here. How come? Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. Zero tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's the first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I've made it clear to Matt that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids try it too. I'm not saying I'm asking this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he gonna know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admitted to it, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac, Jack, and Jim This Week in Sports. Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Mac, your co-host, Jack Hirsch, and our other co-host, Jim Jeffcoat, as we're live on Roku TV, YouTube TV channel, Northeast Streaming Sports, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and all over the place. Our broadcast can be heard if you don't catch some of our shows on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Pandora, and iTunes. So if you can't catch one of the shows, just go right there and you can catch the past shows if you want to give us a listen. So, guys, we covered quite a few things, and we got to get to our Philadelphia side of the show here as we try to keep everybody updated here in the Northeast region. And we have one of the best in the business coming up right now, Jamie Pags, the Philly sports guy on everywhere. I just saw a video of him celebrating the Phillies winning their second in a row. So I know he's got to be feeling pretty good today. How we doing today, Pags?
Good morning, Pags.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good morning, Pags.
So,
we had 3 of 4 yesterday. All 4 Philadelphia teams were playing playing at home yesterday.
And before you go off the air, I want to talk to you about an interesting signing by one of the Philly teams before you leave today.
Okay,
there you go. So a tease from Jack and his beautiful Hawaiian shirt he's wearing today. So, folks, let's get into the trade. We talked about it earlier this week. Pags, big trade with the Saints. You kind of swap first round picks, got a first rounder, well, 2 for 1 for them for now, and you got a first rounder next year. I said that the Philly front office, and I think Jim would agree with this, I think Jack too, is pretty underrated, right? They keep that team competitive all the time. They're always in the mix at the end of the year, including going to the Super Bowls and winning one. Why don't you think the Philly front office, Hurst, doesn't get as much notice as some of the other offices? And what do you think about the trade?
Well, I think the trade is good. Like I said, this was it took a first round and a second round pick for Carson Wentz and changed it to, a first round, a second round, a third round, plus the original second round pick that they had last year. So I feel that it really has evolved now. They're getting more from this Carson Wentz than they originally traded for.
That's my case. The Philly front office, Devon Allen, they signed, the great hurdler. He might be the quickest guy in the NFL now if he makes the Eagle team, but he hasn't played. But he played for Oregon, but hasn't played since 2016. It was a brilliant move by the Eagles to just sign him.
I agree. And you know what? The Eagles are really big on athletes in terms of that in regards. Like, for instance, they had they've always done well. They've looked at the Olympics to try to sign players. The guy's Jeremy, I don't remember. He was a snowboarder or a skier, downhill skier, and he was going to return kicks for a while. Was an Olympic guy. I think he won silver or bronze in the Olympics. This guy's really quick. Now, the only thing that I have about that obviously they sign him. Is he going to make the team? He may be on the practice squad. It's one of those types of situations. He's got a lot of speed, and he hasn't been is he in football shape? I like the signing. I like the idea. I like the fact that they got speed. I hope that Jalen Hurts, while working with Tom Brady, has figured out how to not throw a rainbow and throw it with a little bit more zip and be able to get the long ball downfield in a timely fashion rather than having somebody be able to go under and catch a fair catch.
Yeah. All right, that's fair, I guess. If he can get the ball rid of the ball as fast as Tom Brady, that'd be a plus too. So, if he's learning from the old master there, maybe it'll pay off. But even signing a hurdler or a downhill skier, that to me is beside the point, because it seems to me, again, the way they're underrated as far as an organization as putting a competitive team on the field, It really blows my mind because maybe they don't follow Philadelphia around the rest of the country like we do up here in the Northeast. I know Jim does because he's a former Cowboy, and he's from this area too. He's originally from this area. And I know even though he hated playing against the Eagles, he respected them because they always seem to have a good team. And that's what I'm talking about, the Eagles organization. They're not up and down. You know, the Giants organization, they can go to Super Bowl 1 year, they're down 3 years, go back again. To me, that's a sign of, yeah, they got it together for that 1 year and they took the ultimate prize. But the rest of the time, man, they're lucky to even get sniffed the playoffs. You guys are always consistent, always consistently there in the end.
Well, you know, and that's why I say it's funny because Howie Roseman gets looked at in such a negative light in Philadelphia, and that he has probably more retractors than fans in Philly, mostly because of the 2 wide receiver picks, the first round wide receiver picks over the last couple of years. I mean, obviously taking out Devonta Smith, when you put JJ Ortega wayside and you say, okay, well, we could have gotten DK Metcalf, and realistically, our initial goal was CeeDee Lamb, and the Cowboys wound up, jumping in front of us to take him. And then you have, then we took Reagor instead of Jefferson. And if you just think, if we took DK Metcalf and Jefferson, can you imagine what our wide receiving core would look like right now? So, and then now saying, well, we may try to trade for DK Metcalf now. And I don't know that I want him. I hear that, I hear rumblings that he's a little bit of a cancer in a locker room. So I don't know that I want to have that type of dynamic thrown in. That all being said, when, the Philadelphia fan looks at those 2 picks and says that Howie Roseman is trash. And I disagree completely. I feel like Howie Roseman, when he has the right people around him, knows how to make the right picks. Right. And we lost Joe Douglas to the Jets, and that really hurt us. It hurt their, hit their executive area. So when he went to the Jets, I feel that the Jets got the guy who was really the mastermind behind all of the picks before that. Now I feel like they got certain people back in place to be able to make up for that loss. And I think for a couple of years they didn't. And that was a big deal.
Jim and Jack, let me get your thoughts on that. All right, DK Metcalf, they say that he's a diva and that he might be a little bit like Terrell Owens. And I've heard rumors too. But if you got strong leadership on a team, if you got some leaders in that clubhouse, DK Metcalf comes in and starts talking his trash or saying certain things. Don't you think the strong leadership, it comes down on him, Jim, Jack?
Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, I agree basically with what you're inferring, Mac. I mean, if DK Metcalf comes in, especially you have a young quarterback with the Jets like a Zach Wilson, you don't want a DK Metcalf taking over because you're trying to establish an identity where your quarterback's your leader. Then they might have that problem in Miami, even though Tua is going into his 3rd year with Tyreek Hill. You really don't want Tyreek Hill as the leader unless it's the right guy. If it's not an I guy, then okay, perhaps a wide receiver could lead. But and I don't like all the money being put into these wide receivers because it hurts other positions. Jim had mentioned that in the past show. Like Stephon Diggs just signed a big contract with Buffalo. They're going to pay a price in other positions for that.
So my opinion on this whole thing is receivers are divas. I mean, that's just the reality of it. Great receivers are diva. You can go back to Jerry Rice. You can go back to Drew Pearson. You can go back to they're divas. That's just their personalities. And you make a good point. Your locker room has to control that. The coaches can't control that. And the quarterback has to control that. He has to control those divas because they want, and obviously that's why they're great. They want the ball every single play. They could be triple team and they're open. That's just the way it is. So you have to have people in there, and it can't be. It's got to be offensive players that tell them, hey, sometimes be quiet, and you have to have that personality in the positions that affect that receiver because you got to make it a team sport. And I've heard the same things about Metcalf. He's a great physical, but there are some issues with him in the locker room.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I remember when Terrell Owens was with the Eagles, Pags, there was a story about him getting in a fight with the linebacker and beating the linebacker up, and I think that was part of the problem there.
It was Hugh Douglas. was a defensive end, and it never really got it. He didn't beat him up. It got stopped pretty quickly, but it did go. And he was working for the Eagles. He wasn't on the team anymore.
Okay.
Douglas, but he definitely had an opinion, and it actually stops Hugh Douglas from working with the team anymore. You just can't fight another guy. But that locker room was 100% divided. Because truth of the matter is that Terrell Owens, as much of a diva as he was saying, hey, listen, I've outplayed my contract already. I think that you should give me some more money. And this was the years of Banner. And it really was Banner who was, excuse my language, being an asshole. It's just he was. And he was really big on.
Not bad. You're killing me. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. But that was the only way I could do it. He was big on making examples of players with the contracts. Jeremiah Trotter being one. He let Jeremiah Trotter go. He went to Washington for 1 year. The system didn't really fit what Trotter was doing. He brought Trotter back and signed him for less money because Trotter came back and gave like a hometown discount. But then he went out and flaunted it. And it was really the down, what happened, why Banner was no longer with the Eagles, because he went around, see what I did with Trotter here? I got him for less money, and it was just like, that's not what an executive's supposed to do. An executive is supposed to breed, camaraderie in the locker room. It's not supposed to be, you work in a restaurant, so you understand what the front of the house versus the back of the house. And it seems to be that way a lot. And that's similar to the way it is in football, where it's the players versus the executive side a little bit. And you don't want to push that in any way. So, and that's why they had to get rid of Banner, and they had to start to groom Howie Roseman for that position.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody could have really controlled Terrell Owens. He was that hard to get along with. But I would imagine if Terrell Owens, he played for the Cowboys, if I'm not mistaken, for a while.
Yes, he did.
And I don't.
You don't remember Tony Romo, my quarterback?
I never supported Terrell Owens to get into the Hall of Fame when he didn't get in the beginning, because he was a major negative in the locker room. He hurt teams as much as he helped them, in a sense. Okay, he wasn't a Hall of Famer to me. I know his performance on the field looked great, but the division he caused,
and I agree with it. But is that the qualifications?
Yes, that's part of it. That's part of it. How you elevate a team, absolutely.
Well, you think about that. So thinking about that specifically, without Terrell Owens in 2004, the Eagles don't make the Super Bowl.
I could see that. I could see that. I definitely.
What about all the seasons where he hurt a team?
Oh, in 2005, the Eagles were, sub 500 because of Terrell Owens. So
there you go. Okay,
there's full disclosure on that. Yeah. So as good as he was, but realistically, you think about that. Giving him maybe $2 million, that's all it would have taken, and that they had the extra cap space. Giving him $2 million just to appease him that much, and we could have been back to back to the Super Bowl. We had gone, to 4 consecutive NFC Championship games, and then all of a sudden we wound up not even being able to get above 500.
Thank you, Pax. Thank you. So over him not getting a little more on his contract, he shut down, and the Eagles didn't make the Super Bowl. That's a reason not to vote for a guy to get into the Hall of Fame.
He was the first player to ever be sent home and get paid. That actually happened. He got sent home and says, we're going to pay you, but you ain't going nowhere. You ain't coming back into the locker room, because it was that divisive, and it affected us the rest of the year. Obviously the locker room then started to feel a specific way about McNabb, because it became a McNabb versus Terrell Owens type of situation.
But you knew what you were getting.
Well, and McNabb really again, this is where the egos are the problem here. And this is where I have the fear with DK Metcalf is that McNabb was pro Westbrook. Give Westbrook the money. Give Westbrook the money. And then went quiet when it came to Terrell Owens. With really all he had to do was just be like, yeah, give him some money. That's all he had to say. But he didn't want to say it because he had an ego. And he didn't want to be looked at as more, as less than Terrell Owens. And that's what he felt. His ego felt threatened. And because of the threatening ego, that's why he didn't say anything. And ultimately, the following year, he winds up getting traded too.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Jack is saying. I don't think that's one of the qualifications. I agree with Jim of getting in the Hall of Fame, whether you are a bad guy or not. I think it's more or less your record and your stats and all that stuff. And if you're a great player, and Terrell Owens was a great player, there's no denying that. So, yeah, I don't know about not putting him in the Hall of Fame, but so it's interesting. I think you guys got some strong personalities in a team that might be able to control Metcalf. I don't know, Pags. I don't know the Eagles as well as you do, but he's a hell of a talent. So if you could get him, and with him and Devontae Smith, oh my God, now you're talking a pair of receivers that light the league on fire. Never mind running the ball 90% of the time. You guys could throw almost as equals. So.
All sounds great as long as they can get the ball to them.
That's true.
Again, that's the other part of that problem. You got to have the other half of that equation. Who's going to make sure that the ball gets to him? And are you going to have those types of separations? Is he going to be able to throw the ball into those needle eyes? You know what I mean? Because there's going to be smaller windows because people, they're going to spend a lot more resources. Defenses are going to have a lot more resources put on those two guys specifically. Obviously that's going to leave other spots open. But if you are targeting those two, then now obviously you got to start looking at the other spots too, or else you're going to wind up, running around doing your thing and doing exactly what they did last time, or last year, which got us to the playoffs, but still wasn't what it needed to be. So I'm hoping that's what he's learning right now with Tom Brady, getting that extra little bit of zip, getting it, threading the needle as you were, and getting these balls into places, because as of right now, he's not able to throw those tight window throws.
Yeah.
And
Well,
why
why would Brady want to be helping Jalen Hurts? I don't get the connection. Why would one team's franchise quarterback want to help another? Wouldn't the Tampa Bay organization ask, why are you helping a quarterback on another team get better?
I think it's because it's the fraternity of football. I don't think it has anything to do with the teams. I mean, it's like if I wanted to learn how to become a defensive end, and I started to call Jim Jeffcoat and say, listen, I need a little bit of help. I'm trying to figure out certain things, and you just become friendly with each other. What would stop Jim? Like, why wouldn't he want to show?
Jerry Jones.
I see after games all the time, players from opposing teams talking to each other and say, yeah, if you do it this way, like you got to figure out, figure out how to do this and such like that. I feel like that's part of the fraternity of football.
Yeah, and Von Miller has that camp where all the top defensive ends come and learn some strategy on how to tackle them. Offensive linemen, they have a camp now that they go and learn around the league how these pass rushers are. That's just the reality, Jack. I don't see anything wrong with it.
No, me either.
The quarterback position, it's kind of so specialized. I understand all about the fraternity, but somehow it's kind of like Mariano Rivera taught Roy Halladay, a great pitcher, how to throw, the cutter. And it made Halladay a better pitcher, but it came back to hurt the Yankees a bit during the games.
Yeah. I agree with Jim and Pags. I think that's just the way football is, that they're all in the same thing. They're all in the same boat, no matter what team. They're all just trying to get better and make a living. And that, that's I've seen it. I've seen tapes of a lot of different receivers from different teams, running backs from different teams, running drills together, trying to get better. And, on the field it's different, right? In the field, you guys are enemies, but off field, you're all just trying to get better and keep
exactly. Exactly.
So I understand that. Pegs, the Phillies, 2-0. It's just the beginning of the season. You got to be happy with your pitcher. Yesterday, Nola didn't pitch his best, but you guys outslugged the other team. So, I mean, what do you think? Do you think this Castellanos? I hope I'm saying that right.
Oh,
Schwarber,
I got crushed because I said his name wrong too. So don't feel bad.
Schwarber did his thing the first game. I mean, the power that you guys got did overcome. So you happy so far? Look good? I mean, I know it's only 2, but it's better than being 0-2, right?
I agree, and obviously the Mets are coming into town on Monday, so it'll be a lot of fun that way too.
Yeah, undefeated. Yeah,
yeah. It looks like, and as of right now, if we hold serve, we should, it should be 2 undefeated teams going up against each other. And it's interesting because the Mets
season's only 2 days old, Pat.
Of course, I hear you. The Mets have played 3, though. The Mets have played 3, right? And they're in midseason form.
Off on you.
They're in midseason form because they went ahead and I mean, we've already seen 2 bench clearing brawls, not just from the Mets, but also from the Cubs too. So, I mean, these teams are itching to fight a little bit. So I like that. I like the fact that that's going on right now. I actually commend the Mets, and I'm not a Met fan in any way, shape, or form, but sticking up for their players and going after the pitchers, because now that they got the DH, I feel like that the pitchers are doing a little bit more now, especially in the National League, because they don't have to go up against these pitchers anymore. So you're going to see a lot more of that happening in the NL, and I got to imagine this happened a lot in the AL, and the umpires are going to have to get this under control quickly, because there's going to be a lot more of this going on, these bench clearing brawls, and there's going to be one that's knockdown, drag out.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
It'll be fun. But that being said, I feel like that game 1 of the Phillies against the Athletics is going to be a microcosm of their season. They're going to score a lot of runs. They're going to give a lot up. They're going to score some more, and they're going to win the games. I got them winning 96 games this year.
Wow.
And that's a lot. That's a lot. I'm anywhere between
91 packs. We'll see who's right at the end. I think the Phillies make the playoffs as a wild card. 91 wins.
Yeah, I have it at 94 to 96 wins, and I feel that the good thing is that in the 8th and 9th innings, the Phillies aren't going to be out of it, even down by 4 runs. And I feel that that's part of what we've saw in the last couple of days, that the 4 home runs that have happened. I mean, as of right now, nobody's even talking about Rhys Hoskins, who he's hitting like 750. Of course, it's only 2 games, but I mean, he's hitting bombs. He's hitting the ball strong. You know what I mean? I get it. You know what I mean? It's I'm not talking, I'm not blind to the fact that it's only 2 games, but he had a good spring.
Yeah.
He's brought back up to Philadelphia with him. I mean, he's going to, it's the Athletics, so he's going to face some better pitching, and that number is going to come down. Nobody's ever hit 750 for a season, so if he hits 750 for the season, he's automatically going into the Hall of Fame. You know what I mean?
There's no doubt about that. But it gives you hope, and a lot of people say, it's only 2 games, but if you're 0-2. And you're not looking that good, you're already fretting. I don't care what anybody says. I'd rather be 2-0 and looking all right than be 0-2 and searching for answers. I mean, I know. Go ahead, Jeff.
I just want to say one stat. Last season, the Boston Red Sox lost their first 3 games of the season to the Baltimore Orioles. Mm-hmm. The Red Sox had one of the best records in baseball, and the Orioles had the worst last year. But the Orioles swept them the first 3. That puts it in perspective. Don't get too excited, guys. This is like nothing at all. This is like walking, this is like one little hors d'oeuvre they're giving you, and you're thinking the meal is going to be so great.
But I'll tell you, Jack, after that Baltimore sweep, the Red Sox fans were freaking out, and the Baltimore fans thought they were going to the World Series. So everybody has emotions. Like I said, it's good. When you start off good, your hopes are there already.
Exactly.
The fun part about it is that for the first time in a long time, the Phillies had 2 sellout crowds.
See? There
You
you go.
know, between both games, usually they have a sellout for opening day, and then it drops down off of like 20,000, 22,000 fans. This weekend, they are probably going to double what happened. Then they swept Atlanta last season, but they had 43,000 for opening day, and then 22,000, and then like 28,000 for the first weekend. I mean, they had 44,000, 42,000, or close to 43,000 yesterday. And I expect that there's going to be another sellout crowd today. So it's a hot ticket right now. And there's a lot of excitement for the Phillies. And, you know, like I says, the pitching's got to hold up a little bit. Obviously, Nola didn't have his best outing. Wheeler is still day to day at the moment. So it'll be interesting. I mean, it's, you know, to see if they can hold it. And of course, this is only the Athletics, which are supposed to win a whole 54 games this year. But you can only beat who you play.
Yeah.
So you got to win these games.
And Pags, let's push on to the 76ers. They're matched up against the Raptors. Probably one of the worst matchup you guys could have. These guys played it tough. I think you split the series this year during the season. And the thing is,
that could change today, though. You know that.
Yeah, and the thing is, you guys got to go to Toronto. If this
that
all
could change today.
Yeah, but if all stays pat, that's what it looks like you guys are doing. So, I mean, you're still going to have the majority of your games in Philly because you're a higher seed, but you got to go up to Canada. And I know there's 1 or 2 of your players that haven't been vaccinated. Are you nervous about that?
A little. So I understand about, you know, Thibault, you know, not being able to go up there, and he's really the one that's the biggest deal. However, I am more concerned about the coach. The coach is going to be the problem.
Has he been vaccinated?
Oh, the coach has been vaccinated. Yes.
Okay, I
So-
wasn't sure.
Yeah, they let him in last time, so I got to assume that whether he's vaccinated or not, I mean, he's got the card saying he is.
Guys, what would the NBA do if the majority of players on the team were not vaccinated and had to go to Canada and had to actually forfeit the game? I don't think the NBA would tolerate that. Would they be allowed to just bring in guys under the team's banner or what to play that game?
Luckily, that there's no team that falls into that category.
That's true.
So let's call it that. You know, unfortunately, that's just the way it is. And you know, until everybody says, okay, we are fine with what's going on with COVID. I mean, even right now, to be part of anything with the NFL, you have to, if you want to be involved as with anything that they have going on, like behind the scenes in the air, you know, in the inner circle or whatever, you have to not only be vaccinated but boosted.
All right.
And there's a lot of people that haven't gotten the boosters. They've gotten the vaccinations but never got any of the boosters and stuff like that. So it's being a requirement in certain spots. I mean, if you want to take an Uber or a Lyft right now, you still have to wear a mask. So it's not over yet. You know, This isn't done. I mean, although we've laxed some of the rules that have happened, you know, over the last couple of years, it's still not going, you know, and the countries get to make their own decisions, you know, on who comes in, who doesn't come in.
That's true.
You know, until we annex Canada as part of the United States, which I don't see happening anytime real soon, it's going to continue that way. So I mean, I got to imagine. I mean, Jim's son plays up there in Canada. I bet you he's been vaccinated and boosted and all that other stuff. He ain't got no choice because he don't get to play. That's his paycheck. So,
exactly. And Pags, and he's talking about it when going back to the 76ers. You're not worried about the players. You're worried about that coach.
Correct.
I am worried about him too. Other than Boston,
I'm hoping that Ja Morant goes off today on the Celtics. The Celtics lose this game today, and the Sixers win, and we get the Bulls because I think the Bulls are a much better matchup.
I agree.
And it actually puts us in a whole different bracket across the board. Obviously, we'd have to play the Bucks in the second round, but the Bucks are going to have a really tough. They're going to have to fight and claw for either the Nets. Cleveland, I don't expect being a tough matchup, but I think that the Nets could possibly play them, and that would make it, that would be a tough series for them. But it would also knock the Nets out,
yes,
or the Bucks, one or the other. So
we're just looking for the 76ers to get a leg up.
Yeah, but Giannis is a matchup because you don't have anybody that really. They always say, "Well, we control them." You don't control Giannis. Giannis controls himself because he.
Well, yeah, but I think that Giannis, when he is going up against Embiid, is contained some.
Yeah, he gets
and
that's 50. Yeah, that's
well, no, he scores all of his points. He scores all of his points when Embiid's on the bench. Yes. And that's the problem. Is that they set it up. I mean, the Bucks coach out coaches Doc, and that's part of the game. That is part of the game.
It is. Pags, we love having you on all the time. We'll see you Friday. Everybody, check out TikTok. Pags, the Philly sports guys, all over the place, doing fundraisers, following his teams around. Even if they're 3 different places, he has a special paint that divides him into 3 different people, and he's at all 3 games at once. So he's amazing. So, folks, check out the Philly sports guy all over social media. We're going to let him go. Pags, have a great Sunday, my friend.
Have a great Sunday, Pags.
Take care, guys. Have a good one.
There you go, folks. The Philly sports guy coming.
No Philadelphia Flyer questions for Pags. You ended the NHL season for the Flyers, Matt. Good work on your part. I'm praising you.
Thank you. I thought you were going to try and give me a jab before we went to break. Throw that left jab at me, Jack, just before we broke real quick here. Folks, quick break. We'll be right back after this, where me, Jack, and Jim talk a little bit about sports, just amongst the 3 of us, is why we get paid this big money we make. So we'll be right back after these messages, folks.
McDonald's is our kind of place. It's such a happy place. Happy place. A clean and happy place. McDonald's is our kind of place. It's such a happy place. McDonald's is our kind of place. Your kind of place.
McDonald's believes in getting food to your kids before they get to each other. Such good food, too. McDonald's famous French fries, triple thick creamy shakes, lean beefy cheeseburgers and hamburgers, icy cold soft drinks. And here's a plus, spill-proof lids on all beverages. Another plus, napkins that are big as a bib. Quality, cleanliness, extra care service. That's McDonald's. A total value that's unmatched anywhere.
McDonald's is our kind of place. It's such a happy place. McDonald's is our kind of place.
Your kind of place.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211-INFO-LINE. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
Here comes the king, here comes the big #1. Budweiser beer, the king is second to none. Just say Budweiser, you've said it all. Here comes the king of beer, so lift your glass, let's hear the call. Budweiser beer's the one that's leading the rest.
When you say Bud,
And Beechwood aging makes it beer at its best.
when you say Bud, one taste will tell you so loud and clear. There's only one Budweiser beer. When you say Bud, you've said it all.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye, Dad.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again?
Alex is just...
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs.
They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready. I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, from Brooklyn. Hey, get any.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac, Jack, and Jim This Week in Sports Show on live 8 to 10 every Sunday. Glad you guys could make it. There's nothing like a saxophone leading the charge on any song, in my opinion. Any kind of loud, hard horn is, to me, the best. But
John, I just had an idea. You know, it's amazing the way things pop into my head, Mac. I'm hearing that music. I wonder what the reaction is of a team. You get this player, he comes, he wants to play his own music loud in the locker room, and a lot of guys don't like the music. I'm sure you experienced that, Jim.
Actually, I didn't, but the players today do that, and it bothers me. When I was coaching, players do that, but I'm like, why would they play? Why not just put your headphones on? Have respect for your fellow players, because not everybody likes the same music. But that's before games they do that, and it would drive me batty.
Well, you know, Jim, my answer to that, if I was the head coach of the team, I would put on all military music before the game, and they would have to listen to it, no headphones allowed. So that would be my
There you go.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah, there you are. So when the Saints came marching in, no, that's not the right military music. But anyway, we'd have a lot of fun, and of course the players would revolt. I'd lose the whole team, and I'd just get people from the USFL to play on my team. And
yeah, and I wanted to talk to you about something real quick. I've been thinking about this when we talked about Aaron Judge. I know you guys have offered me a lot of money to do this show, but it's not enough. So
yes,
I'm not going to negotiate or talk about it anymore during our sessions.
Right.
But I'll be a free agent next year, and I'm going to go.
Well, you know, Jim, even though you are a Dallas Cowboy legend, there are legends on other teams, and we have to work right now to see if we could find a replacement for you.
Yeah, but listen, teams say they want a player to be with them for their whole career, and then they move on from the player, no matter how iconic he is. I mean, Peyton Manning, for example. No one was more iconic than Peyton Manning, but they had a better option. Jim is living proof of it. 12 years with the Cowboys, and they told him, "We love you, Jim, but we have someone a little better right now."
That to me is totally different than Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge is still a young man who's only played 4 years of baseball. You talk about Peyton Manning, who played a decade or so with the Colts. He wanted to continue to play. His shoulder got hurt, and the Colts wanted to move on. With Jim played a long time with the Dallas Cowboys, went to 2 Super Bowls. He had he's getting a little older. the Dallas Cowboys wanted to go a little bit younger. Jim wanted to continue to play. Jim could have retired if he wanted to, Jack. That was up to him too.
No, this is my logic. If another team, a good team, is willing to take a player on, like Jim the last 3 years of his career, the Cowboys could have found a way maybe to keep him and work it out. But I don't know if the money could they have met whatever your financial demands were, Jim, but they could have maybe worked it out. Would you say so?
Yeah, they probably could have, but they didn't. And I had to move on because I did want to still play. But in Judges, everybody's arguing, and you said it, about what Judge has said, but we don't know the whole story. There's probably more in that story than we know. And he did say that he wasn't going to negotiate during the season, which I have no problem because you can't focus.
I don't think there's much to the story we don't know. The only thing we don't know is if the Yankees offered him knocked out.
And Jim, to me, I don't care what time of the year it is. If they're willing to give you this amount of money, what does that have to do with anything? You're imposing a deadline on yourself. That's your call. That's not the Yankees' call. Who cares?
Yeah.
I mean,
but he's betting on himself.
Well, Jim, I have, as I said earlier, I mean, you guys think I'm just anti-Judge. I'm not. I think Judge is a good player.
You don't like Judge.
He's one of the best players in the league. I understand that, but he's not the Yankee team. He's a good part of it when he's healthy. And if he wants to try the free agency market, that's fine. I would just help the process along. I would say, listen, Aaron, this is the deal. Either sign it or we're going to look to trade you. Now, it's back in your court again. And then it's his decision for sure. Now, if he says, well, I'm not going to negotiate, well, then you'll negotiate with us maybe when you're on another team or with other teams when you're on another team. Because I don't have time to be playing with somebody who doesn't really know what he wants to do. I want him to be committed to the team. And I know the team screws the players in some instances. I get it. I do get it. I'm just telling you what he said and what they offered him, and he still said no. So that's all I can go off of, Jim. I don't have nothing against Aaron Judge. Go make $50 million a year. I'm happy for you. I really am. I'm good. I'm just saying, as a GM of a team, how do you deal with something like that, where he says this?
That's what your job is.
I understand that. I understand that, but how can you trust a man like that now?
Mac, it should have been addressed earlier. They should have given him this offer earlier in the process.
Who's to say he would have taken it?
If he can get $280 million elsewhere, he's willing to go elsewhere. Right, exactly. So don't fault him either.
I'm not faulting him. I'm not. Did I say I'm faulting him? I'm saying as a Yankee GM, or in a position that I could do something about it, I got to look after my team first, Jack. I'm sorry. I don't care how much I like Aaron Judge, and I don't care if he offered it back before before COVID and all that stuff. Who says he would have took it then either? Maybe say, well, let's wait a while and see. I mean, he's trying to negotiate the best contract he can. I get it, but I can't trust the guy who says he wants to do this and then turns around and says no. I can't trust him now.
You know what the problem is going to be at the end of the year? He becomes a free agent, and the Yankees would be willing to pay him more money. They'd be willing to go up by a fair amount. No. But another team is going to swoop in. Either Steve Cohen, the owner of the Mets, is going to give him an offer the Yankees just can't match, or the Dodgers, and they're going to find a losing Judge.
That's why I say trade him. You won't be in that position then. It's done. And then you'll worry about that when it comes. If he wants to go play for the Mets, go play for the Mets. I don't care. That's his decision. Nothing against him. Have a great career too.
They wouldn't get value right now. Maybe as they get close to the trade deadline, they would. But if the Yankees in contention by the trade deadline, are they really going to want to deal Judge?
Yes. If he doesn't want to sign a contract, definitely. Yes. If I can get a great catcher or a great pitcher or both for Aaron Judge, and that we need another good pitcher, and we need a
no team is going.
Where is Pickles when we need him?
I know, right? Pickles checked out for this. So let's get to the NBA. We talked a little bit about it with Pags, and I want to get your thoughts on the matchups as they stand today. Of course, the Celtics are playing. There might be a couple games that might change things, but if they stand pat in the East, guys, you got Miami versus Cleveland. Believe it or not, Cleveland beat them 2 out of 3 times this year. Miami's playing great ball.
Cleveland had Jared Allen.
Do either of you see Cleveland having a chance to bump off Miami?
No, I don't.
No, Jared Allen. If Jared Allen was in, yeah, but no, they wouldn't.
You have the
Although
Bucks.
they got the one player that's really explosive. I can't remember his name. He scored almost 50 points a couple nights ago, and he's an exciting player. But without Jared Allen, that makes a big difference.
Okay, you got the Bucks playing the Nets. The Bucks and Nets. The Bucks took 3 out of 4 from them this year. Of course, you know that they had all that stuff going on with the Nets. So, what do you think? I mean, do the Nets have a chance at bumping the Bucks off, guys?
Don't they have that little play-in tournament first before you can match up the Nets?
Well,
with the Bucks,
we're gonna take it.
projecting.
We're gonna take it for granted the Nets win the play.
I mean, the Nets would have an excellent chance. It's a series that could go either way. I mean, keep in mind, last year it took the Bucks 7 games. They barely edged the Nets out, and the Nets didn't have Kyrie Irving. Okay, it's a series that could go either way. I mean, I know people are favoring the Bucks based on them being NBA champions, but you take away that title of NBA champions, are they really any better than the Nets? It's a toss-up, basically. It could go either way. I think Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant at the top of their game, if they're playing really great, and the rest of the players are just okay, I think the Nets can get it done.
What do you think, Jim?
I think the Bucks are going to beat them, and here's my reason. Lopez is coming back. He had the back injury, and Middleton, Chris Middleton, he is going to help them. And I'm not going to bet against Giannis. I am not going to bet against Giannis because I think he's the player.
And Drew Holiday has been a force for the Bucks.
Yeah, yes. And Holiday.
I agree with you, Jim, and here's why. I think the Bucks are a very cohesive, fun team that enjoy playing together, enjoy playing basketball. Totally opposite of the Nets situation right now, where it seems very uneven in there. It seems like they have problems, and that's got some talent. They do have talent.
That's never been the case.
I'm just saying it would be a long series. I don't know who I'd pick at this point, but it wouldn't be a short series. I see a 7-game series, at least 6 games at the very least.
Possible. I just like the Bucks big time. You also have right now the Celtics at the Bulls. The Celtics, I think, can handle the Bulls if this is the way the order is. I see the Celtics advancing. What do you think, Jack?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Celtics are just a better team. The Bulls started the year so well, and then they just faltered. They're just an ordinary team at this point. Celtics should beat them without, too much difficulty, I feel.
Jim, are you on board with that?
Well, I just worry about the Celtics' health, and that's the only thing. But I think the Celtics will win. But are they healthy? And that's the question. And going into the playoffs, I know people limit their bench, but that's going to be the Celtics' issue is health. And it wouldn't shock me if it is a 7-game series, but I think the Celtics will come out on top.
Okay, so we're all in agreement on that one. Yeah. Number 4, 76ers against the Raptors. Again, this may change. I don't think it will. I think this is what it's going to end up being. You got the problem with Canada, and the 76ers have talent. They have one of the best big men in the game, MVP candidate. They got one of the greatest shooters of all time on their team, who's a good assist man. Tyrese Maxey is lights out. He can take over a game. They got talent. They got a lot of talent. But there's an issue with the way the team is run. And Pags has talked about it. Jim has talked about it. I've heard about it. And Doc Rivers seems to not help the team win, to put it a nice way. And, Toronto's not a joke. They got a good team. The Raptors are a strong young team. And they got to go to Toronto if it stays this way. Toronto takes one from Philly, they might take the series. What do you think?
If there's a game 7 in Philadelphia, it's hard to envision Toronto winning because it would be an absolute disaster for the Sixers to lose at home in an opening round against a pretty good Toronto team, but they're not a threat to win the NBA title. And I have to feel the Sixers are going to get by Toronto in a very rugged series. I see a 7-game series there with the Sixers prevailing.
Jim?
I agree with a lot of the things you guys are saying. I think it's going to be a tough series, but with Embiid and Harden and playing at a high level, I think obviously Philly has the advantage. But the only problem is Rivers. I think he is a problem, and how he manages the game is going to be a big issue. And that's why the series will go longer than we anticipate. But we all said it'd probably be a 7-game series.
How can Doc Rivers go from an elite coach, to one of the worst coaches in the league?
I don't think he
had
was,
all the years with the Clippers, the Celtics.
Yeah, but how many championships have the Clippers won when he was there?
He underachieved. They underachieved. They
Boston is
never
where
went to
we
the
had his
finals, and they had the talent.
And Boston has a good infrastructure.
They had Garnett, Allen, Pierce, who he won with.
We
But
can coach
listen,
them.
Yeah. Listen. I've heard it. I've heard it since Doc Rivers has been coaching that he is not the best at putting a team on the floor, especially a competitive team. We'll find out. I mean, if they lose to the Raptors, Rivers is gone. Philadelphia is going to be upset like you wouldn't believe if this holds true. And Toronto wins. Oh my God, this is going to be like,
they'll need a fall guy, and it's too soon to blame James Harden. Doc Rivers would be the perfect fall guy, and I agree. He probably would get let go if they get bumped out of the first round, because the public backlash would be so bad.
it'd be crazy.
It would be hard to see Daryl Morey, the GM, keeping him.
No question.
Yeah. So in the West, guys, which I don't follow as closely as the East, I'll admit, you have the Suns right now that are facing off against the Clippers. Believe it or not, the Clippers and the Suns are 2-2 in the regular season. The Clippers, they got a couple of players back, man, and they can, last year they surprised a lot of people. Do they have a chance against Phoenix, guys?
Guys, tell me, what's the deal with Kawhi Leonard? I have no idea.
He's out for the year.
What's
Is it
happening?
knee or back? Something. He has an injury. Kawhi is out for the year.
Yeah, but going forward, you don't even hear about his rehab for next year. You heard about Klay Thompson when he was injured. We got updates on his rehab, what was going on, when he might return, even if it was a year later. We hear nothing about KY. He's like a mystery man. Paul George is back for the Clippers. It won't be enough to beat Phoenix.
No.
I mean, they
it'll be a
actually
good
beat
game.
them the other night, a regular season game, but they're not going to be able to beat them 4 times.
Yeah, the thing is with Kawhi is, I mean, they put a lot of money in to build their team around Kawhi, but I think he's a great player. But you talk about a person who's not trustworthy, I'm not going to put all my money into Kawhi Leonard.
That's why Paul George went there. He recruited Paul George to come to the Clippers.
I agree.
Paul George is chasing a championship. He followed Leonard there in the
because Kawhi wanted at San Antonio, he wanted at Toronto, and now he's at the Clippers, and I don't know how much his desire is to play.
But Jim, why does a guy leave a city? Leonard would have been a legend in Toronto. Is there 1 year he delivered them a championship? He was a legend for life had he just stayed with.
I agree, but he's a Los Angeles kid and he wanted to go home. That's the bottom line.
Grizzlies against the Timberwolves. Let me tell you, the Grizzlies are a great team. The Timberwolves are no slouch either. I mean, they split the series 2-2. I expect the Grizzlies to eke this out. I wouldn't be surprised if the Timberwolves beat the Grizzly guys. I wouldn't. They're a good, strong young team. So I think it could go either way. I'll pick the Grizzlies, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Timberwolves upset them.
I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to pick the Timberwolves to upset the Grizzlies. I know the Grizzlies have been the big surprise. I know Jim said they're the dark horse to win the NBA title. But you look, they have upside, the Timberwolves. Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns seems to be having a career year. And he's had a lot that's went on in his personal life. He's, greatly motivated. And you look at all the young talent there in the Timberwolves, and they've slipped under the radar. I could see them in a playoff series like that, rising to the occasion and actually upsetting the Grizzlies. And keep this in mind, Jay Morant comes back. Does it necessarily make the Grizzlies better? If they're winning without a guy and the guy comes back, in a certain sense, the chemistry could get a little messed up as great as a guy is.
You talk about a team that's cohesive, and that's the Memphis Grizzlies. So I don't think that's going to make a difference. They have fun. If you watch the access with them, these kids have fun. And the Grizzlies' issue is Patrick Beverly. He's a good player, but is he a great player? And he's changed the whole the whole team, because now all they do is talk and they try to intimidate you. You can't intimidate some of these guys. That makes them play harder against them. And Beverly's doing that because that's just his personality. Karl-Anthony Towns is talking a lot, and I think this is going to affect him. I think Grizzlies are going to get after him, myself personally.
But certain players, young players, come into their own sometimes a few years after being in the league, like D'Angelo Russell on the Timberwolves. He might turn into an absolute star during playoff time. You know, he's on an upswing as is.
Yeah, I just think that the Timberwolves, I think Beverly was a good pickup for him. But when you get in the playoffs, you got to be careful because a lot of these guys, he will get a technical. Beverly will get a technical. He's going to PO somebody, or they're going to get into it because that's just how he plays. And I think that's going to make guys play harder. And I know it's the playoffs, but they're going to play even harder because they don't want to deal with Beverly.
Well, you know, I picked the Grizzlies, but I would not be shocked if the Timberwolves do upset them. We got the Warriors at Denver. Denver, believe it or not, has beaten the Warriors 3 out of 4 times. Denver's one of those teams that's kind of steady, right? They held on to that 6th spot all year. They went on some winning streaks, lost a couple. I don't know about the Warriors. Are they healthy enough to play? If they're healthy, they got a shot. But I don't know if they're healthy enough to play during the playoffs. And if they're not, Denver has a shot, guys.
Yeah, I'm going to go on a limb there, too. I'm going to pick the Nuggets to beat the Warriors if they play. The Warriors seem to be doing, I mean, it's perception based on reputation, all their past titles. Draymond Green is a little long in the tooth. I think Klay Thompson has made a great comeback, but he's not quite 100% the Klay Thompson of before. And Steph Curry lives and dies on his shot. And James Wiseman, who would have helped them a lot as the Warriors, is out for the year. Nuggets are just steady. They're good. They started the year slow. The Warriors started the year quick. So the perception is the Warriors should be the favorite. But it's not the overall record. It's where you are to this particular point. And I think the Nuggets are just a tiny bit better at this point.
What are your thoughts, Jim?
Jokovic. I think that, like you guys have said, I think the Nuggets are going to be a better team than the Warriors. Draymond Green coming back from the back injury. And the Nuggets is actually starting to get healthy. And I think Steph Curry, you know, he's been out for a couple of weeks with his injury. And like everything you said is right. I just feel the Nuggets have the upside. And Golden State is they're going to have to look at their roster and see and make some decisions after this year.
I agree with that.
They're make some decisions, but I just think Jokovic is going to play well, and the Nuggets are going to upset the Golden State.
Interesting game. Dallas at Utah, 4 against 5. Utah last year was number 1 team in the conference. They fell really hard this year. Went through some pretty bad droughts, come back. I mean, they got knocked out right away last year. Dallas is another steady team. I mean, they're not outstanding, but they're not bad at all. They could beat anybody at any time. Can Utah get this series and win a series? I mean, they do have talent. Jack, what do you think?
I get the feeling Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert don't like one another. I mean, that could because something with the Utah's chemistry. If Utah loses to Dallas, I'm going to make a major deal. Someone has to go, maybe Donovan Mitchell. They've got to shake things up a little. I don't think Luka's going to carry Dallas to actual victory. I think when all's said and done, Utah, has a, better personnel all around. And Luka would have to have the series of his life to get them over the top. So I'll go with Utah there. But I think it's going to be a long series.
Luka will carry him. Dinwiddie, I think, and Jaden Brunson, they'll carry. They're really playing well, first of all. And when you look at the series, Dallas had a big advantage at home against Utah. And I agree with what you said about Mitchell and Gobert, because I think Gobert is a free agent after this year. And I think there's going to be a change there with Gobert. And I just don't think Utah, to me, is overrated. I really believe they're overrated. And watching them, I watched the Utah when Dallas had to get home field advantage because they struggled in Utah. But when they were at home, they really got after Utah, and they got the home field advantage. So I think Dallas has the advantage, not Utah, and because of the issues with Mitchell and Gobert.
All right, that makes sense to me. A lot of things we said we agree on. A couple upsets Jack picked, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's right. I still don't know if it's going to come forth or not, but there are some shots here from the lower seeds. Yeah. Beating the higher seeds, and probably something we didn't even think of is going to happen.
What about the Lakers series, Mac? Are we going to analyze that in the playoffs?
Yeah, we'll analyze that next year, Jack.
Lakers and the Knicks.
Yes, when the Lakers go out and they bring back Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to be their center, they have a chance, because I think LeBron James will make that move just to get that big 7'2", 3, 4 guy, whatever he was, in the middle again. He can't run anymore, but he'll just stay in on the offensive side, down by the basket, and they'll just throw the ball to him and he'll dunk. So the Lakers will have a shot next year. The Knicks, I didn't want to talk about the Knicks. It's just a subject that hurts my heart, so I'm not even going to get into that. Thibodeau will be gone, though. That one prediction I'm going to make: Thibodeau will not be the Knicks head coach next year.
Wow,
that's a shame, because I think he's a good coach.
I do too.
But I
he's
don't know.
playing Obi Toppin a little more. That's what the Garden crowd wants to see. Toppin scored 35 the other night.
Yeah.
But Thibodeau's old school. You have to play hard-nosed defense, so you don't play. And the crowd loves Toppin for the entertainment. Apparently, he doesn't play the defense that Thibodeau wants him to.
Yeah, well, I think that's Thibodeau throwing up the white flag saying I surrender. So that's not the kind of coach he is. Folks, we're going to cut out now. We're going to be back. Mac and Jack will be back Thursday, 8 to 10 a.m. on our Thursday edition. We're gonna have some interesting stuff coming up, so stay with us as we start talking about Kentucky Derby. I never thought I'd be talking about the Kentucky Derby.
I know nothing about it.
But we're gonna do something with the Kentucky Derby this year, coming up late April. Of course, the draft show is coming up. We have a fight watch along with Jack and Frank April 16th with UGAS versus Spence.
I'm gonna be there.
There you go. And
I'll give you analysis from the fight.
Look at that. You could look at that, Jack.
Hook that up, Mac. I mean,
that would be fun. We'll talk after.
Give me a chance to go get a snack during the event.
Right, exactly. So of course, Jack is on with Frank Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern with Glove Fist. Join Jim and Byron with J&B Talking Shop on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on our YouTube and Roku channels. Folks, here have a great Sunday. Hope you enjoy everything, and hope your NBA team gets in there and raises a little hell. Have a great Sunday. We'll see you next on Mac and Jack Thursday. Have a great Sunday again, folks.
Have a great Sunday, guys.